Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And I get this question a lot. It's a very stressful decision that you all need to make, which is what class are you going to main? You don't want to feel like you're making a mistake. You want to make sure it's going to deliver you the results that you want from any given content that you're going after. So in today's video, I have constructed my list of the 7 best mains for Midnight. These are specializations that are going to be excelling in a broad amount of content, whether it's raids, dungeons, or PvP, and so that way you've covered your bases. You'll know how good these specializations and classes are in any given content, and how good are they as like a fallback as well. And as always, if you want to make sure that you stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. But let's get started here on this list. We've got 7 classes / specializations. Some of them are only specializations because the other specs are kind of just not so hot at the moment. But the first one on the list is the Paladin. I think that the Paladin class, broadly speaking, being able to be a healer, DPS, and tank leaves you with a ton of options. It's going to guarantee that you can get into groups. So if you want to focus in on dungeons to farm up gear, you can sign up as Prot and then roll on Ret Loot and get Ret Loot that way. Or you can play Holy, and I think that Holy Paladin is likely going to be at least decent in Mythic Plus as a substitute for Resto Druid predominantly, or Restoration Shaman, but it's also going to be one of the best healers in PvP. So that's the trade-off there. You're maybe not the best in Mythic Plus if you go for Holy Paladin, but you're going to be near the top in PvP, and you're honestly going to be in a safe position where you're probably not going to get nerfed. You're going to have great accessibility to join groups, and you have 3 different roles that you can play if you ever get bored of one. So it's just limitless content there. Ret Paladins, you guys are just always great in PvP, pretty much at all levels of content except maybe 2v2. So you may want to be a little bit wary of that bracket, but even there, you're one of the few specs that could probably play a double DPS composition in the current meta. So if you're looking to build something around that in PvP, Ret Paladin will be a great option for you there. So I think that Paladin overall is a great pick, and it might just come as a surprise that I'm describing it as such an amazing pick, and it's literally only 7. I think the reason that it's at 7 is because some other specializations are excelling in like the S tier category. So from a performance standpoint, you're not going to be like the peak of this, but you're kind of safe. You're probably going to be nestled away from any massive nerfs, and you're still really good in all of the content. So to me, this is like a kind of like safe road investment, right? It would be like buying the S&P 500, not financial advice, and kind of going for the long game. You're not going to get that big payout, but you're also not going to get the volatility of some of the other specializations and classes. So I do think that Paladin is a great one to go for overall. The number 6 specialization on this list is the Subtlety Rogue. It did just receive some minor nerfs to its AoE and PvE, but it's still likely going to be looking like quite a monster. When it comes to Mythic Plus, it's got a great single target. It's going to be really good in PvP. This is one where you are probably focusing in a little bit more on PvP, but it's not leaving your options completely vacant when it comes to PvE. But this is more of an all-in, because I do expect Assassination to be lagging behind after the changes they made for PvP especially, but even in PvE, Outlaw is kind of sort of making its way into the mix, but it's a lot more complicated. The reason I really think Subtlety Rogue could be a good option for you this expansion is that it's just been simplified and it's been streamlined, and it's way more accessible than it has ever been in any expansion. So this is like the time to get into it if you've ever been worried or concerned about it, and it's performing at a respectable level in PvE, and it's absolutely dominating in PvP regardless of the bracket. So you've covered your bases there basically across the whole game, and you're going to be able to jump into it as a newcomer and have a really easy ride. It's just basically builder spender. You build up combo points, spend them on Eviscerate or Secret Technique, and that's it. There's no like weird cooldown stacking that you got to worry about as much as you did in the past. It's just straightforward, easy to pick up, really accessible. I think it's a great option for a main. This is probably the best time to do it, but you are limited likely to really only excelling on Subtlety Rogue for now. Maybe that changes again pending some class tuning, but I think the simplification that they've done to the specialization and its level of excellence in all content warrants it at least being on this list. So that's why I've put it here in the number 6 position. My number 5 pick for the best main for Midnight is the Evoker class. So depending on what content you want to do, the specialization is going to be the one that you want to focus in on. Augmentation seems to be shining very well in Mythic Plus. Preservation is shining extremely well in Raid, and likely going to be doing better in PvP since the most recent tuning changes that they've made to it. It's likely going to be climbing up some ranks. Devastation is an absolute monster when it comes to PvP. Very straightforward specialization too. If you're going for Devastation, just fly around in circles with Disintegrate Laser. It's a great dad spec to just log in and zap people and have fun, and it has a lot less frustrating mechanics than a lot of other specializations. So I think that is important to take into account. So depending on what content you want to do, it will determine which specialization that you want to go for with this class. In PvP, I would say avoid augmentation right now. It just got nerfed for PvE reasons because it was really strong, but hey, that means you're doing really well over there. In PvE, likely going to be able to get some group compositions there. Preservation excels in Raid and likely very good, at least in PvP, but maybe not as present in Mythic Plus. So it depends on what content you want to do with this one, but similarly to Paladin, having the DPS and the healer role gives you some flexibility to be able to get into groups faster, to gear yourself up, and make sure that you're not sitting any queue times also in PvP, which is an important consideration. So being able to flex between Devastation and Preservation, for example, in PvP for your queue times, or even going Preservation just to be able to join groups faster and just roll on a different loot spec, can be a really good and effective and efficient way to gear up. So this one isn't kind of as bulletproof. Honestly, maybe I should have put this one where the Paladin was and moved the Paladin up a little bit from where it was, because Paladin is more universally viable in all content, whereas Evoker is kind of like you're specializing depending on what spec you go for. But it looks like a really fun one to go after. I've heard a lot of positive feedback with Preservation Evoker and how fun it is. Devastation has just always been great, streamlined, simple gameplay. And then Aug is obviously a top performer, but it's kind of a spec that you either love it or you hate it, I think, as far as roles. So go into that one with those considerations. But I do think Evoker is still a great selection for the game as a whole. Moving into our top three, so these are the creme de la creme, top of the crop, top of the shop. Number 3 is the Hunter, and I think most notably I want to talk about the Marksmanship Hunter. This spec is absolutely blasting, and I think it's super sleeper right now. It's starting to get acknowledged in some Mythic Plus groups, especially around like physical-based compositions. It's going to be an absolute destroyer in that, and the synergies with Brewmaster Monk as well, with the physical damage enhancements that it provides, is going to be great synergies there for you. So it's very straightforward and easy now. I love what they've done with aim shot, with the timing of it, so that you don't need to like constantly spam it. You get a little bit of time between it. You reload with steady shot. It feels really smooth. It blasts massive AoE damage. It's going to be really good in PvP also. So like Marksmanship Hunter is like universally just good in the whole game. You will have a phenomenal experience no matter what content you're doing, just on that specialization alone. Now, maybe I should have just put Marks Hunter instead of just Hunter, broadly speaking, because Beast Mastery Hunter, I think, is still a bit up in the air. It did receive some pretty significant buffs for PvE, but not for PvP, and I think Marks is still likely outshining it there. And then Survival Hunter is like you either love it or hate it. I've seen a lot of Survival Hunters that are really mad that they took away the Javelin Spear build that they used to have and replaced it with the shotgun. But at the same time, they introduced dual wielding, and they've been really trying to make sure that the dual wielding builds are actually viable by providing talents and some buffs to that as well. So it's kind of like a hit or miss. Some things with survival people are upset about, other things they're happy about. I think the one thing most hunters, at least in PvP, that are upset about is they've lost scatter shot. Maybe it will come back. We'll have to kind of see how that plays out, because I do think it's a bit unfair that you guys lost scatter and then other classes seemingly gained crowd control, like Demonology Warlocks and Subtlety Rogues, for example. Feels like they can CC even more frequently, whereas you guys lost the one thing you had and you lost the roots recently. But Marksmanship Hunter is the one that I'm zoning in on, and if you want to dual wield, Survival Hunter also looks really fun and likely competitive in a broad amount of content. So it says number 4 here, but it is number 3. That is a typo. Okay, this is number 3. Hunter, I think, is a great pick, but most notably the Marksmanship Hunter. Let's move into number 2. We're cutting it down quite quickly. This says number 3. It should say number 2. It's all good. We got the Mage. So across the board right now, Frost is looking like it's leveling up. It's going to be really good in Mythic Plus. It's going to be in a lot of the wizard compositions, I think, as well as Arcane Mage in PvE. When we jump over to PvP, Frost is also a top contender, especially with all the buffs towards melee DPS right now. If there's a big influx of melee DPS into PvP, as a Frost Mage, you're very happy about that. You're going to absolutely be crushing it and killing it there. And they're rebalancing your damage out of Ray into more of your other abilities, which I think is great for the overall flow and gameplay. And it's really simplified. They've pruned a lot of the abilities away onto it, like Cold Snap. You just talent now and use to get 2 blocks and 2 barriers. So you don't have to worry about an extra keybind to be able to reset those. You just get 2 charges of them, which makes the barrier really strong because you get 2 charges of it on a much lower cooldown. So you're going to be a very durable specialization if you go for Frost with tons of AoE damage in PvE or PvP. So if you want to do like everything in the game, I would say Frost is kind of your go-to. And another main advantage of playing Mage, at least in PvP, is that your stats are the same no matter what spec you play. So let's say Frost Mage gets nerfed. Well, you can just reroll Fire. Your gear is going to work for Fire. If Fire gets nerfed, you can just reroll Arcane. Gear works for Arcane. So the gear is universally viable, at least in PvP, as far as your stat allocation with haste and versatility. So you're pretty much kind of like bulletproof to any sorts of nerfs when it comes to PvP. Now in PvE, maybe not so much, but there's a lot of casters that are just really good right now in PvE. So we have to kind of wait and see how that plays out if you're going to end up getting nerfed or not. But I think the stats over there as well are going to be pretty similar in terms of performance. And right now, Fire Mage is going to be blasting people in PvP, but maybe not so good in PvE. They did just recently buff it for PvE, and honestly, they include those buffs for PvP as well, it seems, on those notes. So Fire is like kind of my go-to, but Frost looks really good and really fun as well. And then Arcane seems to be the one that's getting all the attention for nerfs in PvE, and it's already starting to fall behind in PvP. So Arcane may be the one that you want to be a little bit more wary of as far as selection, but I think Mage is great just because of the flexibility between the 3 specs to make yourself immune, but you don't get the advantage of being able to be a tank to get into faster content or a healer for faster Qs. That is the trade-off, but I do think that Hunter and Mage look really good and fun across the whole game right now. Now, number 1, which it says number 2, but it should say number 1. Wait, maybe it is number 2. Wait, now I think that I might have skipped a number on my list. I think I skipped a number on my list because this actually does seem right to me that Druid is number 2, because I've got one that we didn't talk about yet. There's the mystery number 1. I'm thinking my numbers are actually right. So Druid is number 2. Guardian Druid did just get blasted off the face of the earth. So maybe we're not going to really talk about Guardian Druid too much here when it comes to PvE or PvP. A lot of people, their tier lists are readjusting and throwing Brewmaster in for pretty much everything, and then Vengeance Demon Hunter as a substitute for some compositions in PvE. But when we look at the healers, Resto Druid and Mythic Plus still looks really good. It's going to be absolutely killing it there, much like Evoker. Depending on what content you want to do is kind of going to determine the strength of your specialization. If you want Mythic Plus, Resto Druid, you're going to be dialed in there with a lot of different compositions, and you provide a lot of great damage output. I really like the kind of cat weaving in the PvE style for Resto Druid as well. Boomkin is just getting better and better now. It got buffed a lot. It's going to likely be really good in Mythic Plus. It's already really good in PvP. So Boomkin is good in both environments. Feral Druid just got a really big buff for PvE, which is putting it into a lot of the top comps for Mythic Plus, and it was already in a solid position for PvP, and obviously Guardian maybe was outshining it with how OP it was, but it got nerfed. So as long as you don't play Guardian Druid when it comes to selecting Druid, you're going to have something that you will be excelling near likely the top end of competitive play. Now, Feral Druid is still more complex. I would label it one of the most complex melee DPS. So if you're going into this for melee, while Druid is great because it lets you play a tank, a healer, a ranged, and a melee, the melee option is the most complex. Boomkin is one of the more easier options though. So to me, like, Boomkin is a really good pick right now. And then you can flex to Resto Druid to get faster Qs if you want to. Although they seem to be really just nerfing Resto Druid every single time. So in PvP, I don't know, bro. I don't know if you'll be able to survive that. I'm just letting you know, but I think Druid is a great one. It's obviously one of the ones that I'm going to be going after. But to me right now, the number 1 class to go after is the Monk. So Brewmaster is going to be a dominant force in like world PvP and tanking and Mythic Plus. I've been playing it and it's just like completely unkillable, crazy damage, tons of disruption for all of the trash mobs. It has great grouping capabilities with things like Ring of Peace, and there's a lot of mechanics where Ring of Peace will bounce enemies out of domes that reduce damage that I think is likely going to be very effective as well. So you have great utility. You're just unkillable meat shield basically with the stagger mechanic when it comes to Mythic Plus. Mistweaver is also looking to be like a decent substitute for some Mythic Plus content as well, but it's obviously for Mistweaver, it's like PvP. It's like you're just completely taking over there. Although you did recently get nerfed, which I think is mostly going to impact your viability in battlegrounds. We kind of have to wait and see how this new Way of the Crane change goes in, where it's only healing one nearby ally instead of a group of them. That could have some major implications. That's the one thing that I'm really focused in on, because everything else seems like almost a buff for Mistweaver, at least in PvE. But then on the PvP side of things, Mistweaver is kind of just like the really one to go for. And then Windwalker, I think, is just kind of sleeper. I think it's riding beneath the waves. It's just waiting for the top to get cut, and it will absolutely rise in the game across the board. It's getting a major rework in 12.0.5, which is going to give it a huge fun AoE playstyle with Fist of Fury and Spinning Crane Kick from what I've seen so far. And the fact that it's kind of just riding under the radar at the moment makes it great. And also Monk is just a universal class with a tank, a healer, and a DPS. It doesn't have a ranged, which is the only downside, but you're universally protected by picking this as a main. It's also, at least with Brewmaster, it's a spec that has not been strong for a while. So sometimes they take a spec that hasn't been strong for a while and they could just like, you know what, it's going to be the best for now. You might be in that boat, and it's possible that Mistweaver might be in that boat as well, at least for PvP, because it hasn't been great for a long time. And same thing goes for Windwalker. So you're kind of like setting yourself up for a really good like late game ramp in terms of viability, no matter which specialization that you go for. And you have the advantages of being able to switch to be able to get faster queue times or get into LFG faster for a lot of the content. So for me, Monk at the moment is kind of like that sleeper pick that you really got to consider. And Monk is typically not the most popular class in the game, but right now, do not sleep on the Monk. Do not Song of Chi-Ji on the Monk. Okay, I think it's really good. But that's my breakdown of the top 7 specs. Apologies for the randomness of miscalculating which numbers were on this. You know, it's a little bit early in the morning. But that's my breakdown of it. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. I hope it's got you thinking and hopefully got you able to lock in on something, because I know it can be very challenging to pick a specialization. But thank you, and I will see you guys in the next one.